Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. We cover the stories both big and small, the epic and the cute, the silly and the tragic. I hope you all enjoy the ride, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. In Eorzea at the Gladiators Guild, the Warrior of Light hears a bit of gossip. Apparently the Sultan's sworn elite have decided to share the secret training of the Paladins with the people. This might not seem all that special, but in the past if you weren't a member of the Sultan Sworn who was on the path of becoming an officer, then you had no shot of learning the techniques of a Paladin. So the competition for earning the training was brutal. It also forced you to swear an oath to the Ul'dah Sultanate, so you couldn't be an adventurer or even fight in the Colosseum if you decided to take the job. Which is why the change in policy is such a big deal, one that the Warrior of Light is eager to take advantage of. Jinlins, the captain of the Sultan Sworn Elite, is recruiting people near the Royal Promenade, so you head there to tell him that you're interested in joining. The first thing he does is tell you that a Paladin doesn't fight for himself, but for others, which means you're a Paladin no matter what job you choose since you're always fighting for everyone else, making you a perfect fit for learning the techniques that the Paladins have been perfecting for 600 years. Unfortunately, their numbers have been shrinking as time passed, probably because of how hard it was to become a Paladin in the first place, so the Sultana has been having to get mercenaries and adventurers to defend the palace for her. Apparently this all happened because of a traitor in their ranks, but that's not your problem for now, even though it did cause them to make the changes that allowed you to have a chance to become a free Paladin, one that's not bound to the Sultanate. If you don't actually suck with a sword, that is. There are some ruins to the south of Little Alamigo where they have an iron brazier. Jinlins wants you to light the fire there, kill the undead that show up, and bring in their ashes to prove that you did it. An easy enough task for someone of your skill. When you finish the mission, a big, kinda creepy looking Rogadin in plate mail reveals himself to you. He knows that you're there trying to become a Paladin, and he wants you to know that learning how to use a sword and wearing Paladin armor doesn't actually make you one. He's a free Paladin who tells you a bunch of nonsense about breaking your shackles and such before handing you a soul crystal to take to Jinlins. He does mention that the way you use your sword reminds him of someone he used to know before he heads off. When you return to Jinlins with your prize, he congratulates you on becoming a free Paladin, which is basically just a Paladin adventurer. He goes to give you a soul crystal of your own, but when he finds out someone gave you one, he takes it from you and lets you know that it's impure because it was stolen from the Sultan Sworn. The man who gave it to you was the traitor Jinlins has been hunting. Jinlins had wanted to become a Paladin since he had first seen his predecessor as a small child. Him and his father had got caught in a riot in the city, and they would have died if his old captain hadn't saved them. After seeing how the man fought, Jinlins had trained day and night with a sword. After years of work, he had made it into the Sultan Sworn and eventually became a Paladin. Then finally he became the captain. But by then the group had lost a lot of their honor because the sword Oathkeeper had been stolen. That sword was the symbol of all things Paladin, and when the traitor stole it, people lost faith in the order. If they couldn't keep the sword safe, then how could they protect the Sultana? The only way to get that honor back is to catch the traitor and get the sword. Jinlins expects you to help with that, but you'll need to be stronger first, and the best way to get stronger is to make you fight stuff, so he sends you out to Lenosha to do just that. Seeing how you fight and hearing about your growing list of good deeds makes Jinlins proud to have you in the order, and since you've proven yourself, he decides to trust you with the truth. The person who stole the Oathkeeper, the traitor Soxagil, is his former captain and the man who made him want to become a Paladin in the first place. A few years ago, the Sultanate military and a group called the Monitarists, a group that's a part of the Syndicate who are always causing problems in Eorzea, fought for power. The Monitarists won, and the military lost a lot of its authority. Soxagil was still in charge of the Sultan Sworn, but he knew that his position was in danger, so he took the Oathkeeper and left, which went against every oath he took. And Jinlins is willing to kill his former mentor if that's what it takes to restore their honor. After he's put on trial, of course. However, he was a Paladin for 30 years, and fighting him won't be easy. Trying to bring him in alive will probably get one of you killed, so you need to train more to get ready for that day, which means more fighting. While you do that, Jinlins keeps hunting for his former teacher. While he was going through some information trying to find out a little bit more about his old master, he learned that at the same time the man became captain, a few high-ranking members of the Sultan Sworn died, but the records don't show how. He checked with some more sources and found that all of them had been poisoned, which makes Jinlins think that they were killed by the Death's Embrace, assassins that work for the Monitarists. The group is good, and few people even believe they exist, but good or not, they shouldn't have been able to take out that many of the Sultan Sworn. Not without help from the inside, that is. And the only person who had something to gain from their deaths is Soxagil. The Monitarists wanted to get rid of all of the best paladins so they could take over, which makes you wonder, how did Soxagil last for 30 years without being murdered? Unless he was the one working with the assassins. All of this makes Jinlins want to hunt the man down even more, so he decides it's time for you to undertake the trial for your armor so you'll be better equipped for the fight. For the trial, your armor is taken to 4 locations in southern Thanalan, and you have to find each piece and beat the 2 men set to guard them. Of course, it's easy for you to get, and when you make it back to Jinlins, he lets you know that he's found Soxagil. The man has agreed to meet with them at the Forgotten Springs to discuss the return of the sword. He wants you to keep all of this secret, because if the Monitarists find out what's going on, they'll probably try to stop you. He even wants you to travel separately so you won't draw attention. Out in the desert, you find a sword stuck in the ground at the meeting spot, but you don't see any sign of Soxagil. When Jinlin shows up with members of the Sultan Sworn, the man says that some of his friends told him that you were working with the traitor and the Monitarists, which has got to be the most ridiculous story ever. But the man not only believes them, but he plans on beating you until you confess and tell him where Soxagil is. You'd have to be stupid to think that your newest member of your organization is somehow involved in a takeover plot that you think has been going on for years. But Jinlins is so focused on restoring the honor of the Paladins that he's reaching for anything that he can to make that happen, no matter how ridiculous it is. And you trying to tell him that the Sultan Sworn have lied to him doesn't go over well. He's known them longer, and he trusts them more, so he sentences you to death. Since talking didn't work, you do what you do best and take them all down. Jinlins is so confused by how a new recruit beat him that he doesn't notice the member of the Sultan Sworn aiming a bow at him. Fortunately, Soxagil steps in and saves the man's life, causing the attacker to run off. The whole event was a setup by the Monitarists. Once you and Jinlins weren't useful anymore, they had decided to get rid of you both, and those Sultan Sworn were in on it. Jinlins still refuses to believe that Soxagil isn't the traitor, but his single-minded nature has always been a problem. If he had paid attention, he would have realized that all of the information he had been finding had been being handed to him. Jinlins and all of his paladins had been being manipulated by the Monitarists. Soxagil was never a traitor. Jinlins finally realizes that he's right just as he passes out from the beating you gave him. Soxagil carries him off to patch him up, and he tells you to watch his back when he wakes because he's going to need someone like you for what's coming next. When Jinlins recovers and sees you again, he rightfully feels bad for trying to kill you. Have you noticed that a lot of your friends try to do that? Of course, just like you've done a few times before, you forgive the man. He lets you know that he's working on a plan to deal with the Monitarists now that he knows what really happened with them and Soxagil. For the past few years, the man has been fighting them alone. When he went into hiding, he had tried to let Jinlins know what was going on, but he had so many of the Monetarist agents around him that he couldn't. That was all on purpose, so they could trick Jinlins into tracking his former master down. After he had found out that Death's Embrace had been behind the deaths of a lot of Sultan Sworn, they tried to get rid of you both. Now that he knows the truth and understands that his own obsession let him get manipulated, he starts to understand that single-minded focus on a goal may not always be a good thing. You don't say. Soxagil was able to see the bigger picture the whole time, which is why he gave you the Soul Crystal in the first place. He wanted Jinlins to change the way Paladins operated, making them more like adventurers so they could be more open-minded and better able to think for themselves. Basically, he wanted them to take the sticks out their butts. So instead of his usual method of handling problems, Jinlins decides to be a little reckless. He's going to tell his friends that he's running away to Snowcloak to hide from the assassins, but he expects them to find him since the spies and the Sultan Sworn will rat him out. And when they show up, he's going to fight them. It sounds like a stupid plan, since he doesn't even want you to come and help him. He's gonna die. But fortunately for him, Soxagil knew about the man's plan since he didn't really try to hide it, and he has no intention of letting Jinlins fight alone. And of course you won't either. The man's shocked to see the two of you, but since the assassin sent Voidsent after him, he's not gonna turn down the help. After you make quick work of the things, you all split up to track down the assassins because they have to be nearby. It's not hard to find them, and they send so many mages and monsters at you that Jinlins wouldn't have had a chance by himself. But with the three of you working together, you deal with it. That's not the end of the Monitorists by a long shot, but it should be enough to hinder them for at least a little while. But they still have the Oathkeeper, so Solskjaer won't be coming back. Not until all of this is over. But fortunately for Jinlins, he does have you there to watch his back. This concludes the first part of the Paladin storyline. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and ding that notification bell. And if you want to buy me a coffee for my work, sign up to become a member of the channel. Until next time, guys. Later.